Yeah. Okay, so we're live again. um, how do I make you can see my screen now? Is anybody joining? Okay, awesome, awesome. Okay, I think this is great. I think this is great. Cool. Um, in that case, the best configuration. Okay, I think this works best. Um, should zoom in here a bit. Yeah, I think this is good. Hi. If you're watching, um, welcome to today's stream. I would like you to leave a comment, right? Just to let me know that you're here, and then I can just go on. And so if you can hear me, just drop a comment. As soon as I see the comments, I know we're good to go. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I guess I'll just start now. Welcome to today's stream. Um, Sorry, I'm just trying to be sure that I have everything set up correctly. I'm still new to this, so pardon me. I need you to also confirm that you can see my editor, right? Like my text editor. Can you? Yeah, I believe you can. Because I can see it. Okay, so let's just get right into it. All right, yes. Thank you. So last time on what we did was like card flow basically, and but what we worked on was like the basic flow charge a card, and then when you charge the card, you can submit pin and then all of that. So I think if you check everything is on GitHub, right? So you can check it out and see how everything works exactly. So but let me just describe the functions quickly. So you have this charge card function. What it does is you can just pass in like an account ID, right? And then so account ID is from our database, right? An account on our system. Then you can pass in the rest of the card details, the pound, the expiry month, and year, CVV, email, and amount. And then you next thing you do is okay, I should have this log there. It shouldn't be here. But yeah, so the next thing you do is process the initial charge, and then you return a result based on like whatever happens. So if you read through the code, if you watch the last, like the entire film. But yeah, coming to this week, there are like things or two major things, or three actually, three major things I think we should implement. The first thing to implement would be the how to like do recurring debits, right? So say I mean, on a platform like let's say Uber, for example, you only have to enter your card PIN once. After that, your card is saved, right? And then I'll just show you like how saved cards are usually represented and all of that, and how they can debit your card without having to like enter it every time. So something I don't know if you remember, something happened sometime on this app, Bolt. This is a ride hailing app, right? So I think somebody was saying something about them being hacked, and the next thing people were like, "Oh, let me go and delete my card from the platform. Let me delete my card from the platform." And I'm like, "Hey, in reality, right? You're deleting the card doesn't mean if there was a breach, you will not have been, would not be debited. right? Because a lot of times, not every time, I don't know this, but a lot of times, not everybody like deletes, like hard deletes from your card from their system. They just like soft delete and say, okay, this card is deleted. So, I mean, to you, it appears deleted, but I mean, it's still in the system. So, I'll show you how really, as long as they have your card in the system, they can debit it without you having to enter your details or anything again, right? Cool. So let's get to it. Um, indeed, remember that. Let me first open the page for guest cards, right? Let me bring that into view. Cool. I'll put that on a separate. Yeah. So this is my paystack profile. Uh-oh. API reference. Where's it? Okay. Awesome. Now, look at the code, debit a card, and then show you something. Then that's how we'll work forward. So there's a particular card that I already in my head. So I'm going to try and charge a certain card, right? I will charge. Sorry, let me be sure that everything is still fine. Awesome. So I'll charge this card. Somehow because I've used it many times, I already know like the ID. The account ID is something like 1. The PAN is 408 408 408 408 408 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Yeah. So that's the PAN. The amount, let's say I want to get, and then Paystack takes amount as kobo, right? Not naira. So assuming I want to do, this would be how much? 1,000 naira. Awesome. What else do I want to put in here? The CVV will be 408. The email, I'm just going to put an email called jack@geo.com. Whatever. Yeah. The expiry month can be something like any month, really. The expiry year should be any year in the future. So I'm going to put 2025. Cool. Now, then I'm going to lock the response and then catch. I'm going to do the same. Right, awesome. Cool. So I'm going to run this code and show you something very important, right, as part of the response that you get from your card processor, for example. Okay, so let's run this. Let me put breakpoints when necessary. Okay, already done that. Let's start the app. And yes, it's running. Card.js. Cool. So I already tried to charge the card. Now, if you look at this part here, this next action. Okay, I've not made the call. Okay, no, charge. Yes, the charge results. Right. So if I say charge dot data dot we have a certain response, right? I'm going to look for it. And let me just log this first and see what it's there. Cool. Aha, perfect. So in the data, you have this authorization, right? And then they have this authorization code. Can you see this authorization code? Yeah. Now this authorization code is called like a token. It's called a token, right? You can always use this code. You can always send this code to like your card processor, and they would know what card you're talking about, and they'll debit the card. Yes, without having to put in all the details again of cards like CVV and all of that. You get it. So I'm going to just demonstrate that for you quickly, right? And then of course, if you go on, yeah, this is going to be a successful transaction because I mean the code is behaving properly, right? So yeah, create it here and boom, we have a successful, wow, so many big ones. All right, so success true, message is tracked successful. Now I'm going to use this particular authorization that is here, right? Where is it? Yes, yeah, authorization This particular authorization here, this auth ZE something something, I'm going to use the debit stick card again. So just watch me. I'm not going to put in the card details, but I'll still debit this card. Let me comment this out. Right. I'm going to create a function called I hope it's large enough, right? If it's not, please put in the comments. I can zoom in a little bit. Charge card authorization. Charge card authorization will simply take in. But now, so for now, I won't implement the whole thing. Like I won't implement like creating the account. I'll just implement actually debiting the card. Okay, so it will just take in a simple argument called the authorization token. Let's get to call this authorization, right? So for paystack, we already have a format, right? Let's just say charge will be await to make a post request to the, I think it is paystack URL. Okay, paystack URL. Make a post request here. This is the data. You just send authorization code and it will be authorization, right? The next thing to do is put the header. Headers, you say authorization will be, I think it's something like beer, something. Sorry, let me look for it quickly. Where is it? Okay, cool point. There are this. So yeah, that's the authorization header in there. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Cool. So this is just the API call to charge the card. Right? This is supposed to charge, but this is not the end, right? I'm supposed to send an amount, of course. The amount should be something like this, and I'm supposed to also send email. Now I noticed something that the email that you use when you try to charge the card, that the email that you send along is supposed to be the email that you also send along when you're, or if not, it won't work, right? So I'm just going to copy the authorization code from here, right? And that's what I will use. And then the email has to be the same email. So jack@gmail.com. Yep. So something like this, right? I'm just going to say, or let me just return successfully true. Data will be something like charge.data, right? I think I can clear this out. Okay, no, once I restart it, will clear out. So yes, charge authorization, simple. I just want to change authorization, and then it does the rest, right? So let's run this function and see what we get. So I'm going to run charge card with authorization. I'm going to send in that authorization that I got from the original debit. So whenever you successfully debit a card like that, this authorization, the process of getting this authorization code is what is called tokenization, right? So the card is usually tokenized by your card processor, right? So that token is what we have as authorization code, right? Cool. So next thing to do will be to just pass in that authorization I got earlier, which is auth this, right? And let's see. I didn't copy. Okay, awesome. So do this, but then if there's an error, I want to log it as well, right? So log, awesome. So let's run this with a. Do I need to put any breakpoints in here? Okay, I can. Let me just put it here. Right, cool. So I'm going to go over here around this code. Oops, there's an error. What happened? Okay, no, there's no error. Yeah, so you see, I successfully debited this card, right? You will see that charge. So let me just log for charge the beta. So that gives me like an actual sees an actual debit the authorization, and then the channel and all of that, customer details, right? And everything you get basically when you make a successful transaction. So that's how your card. So if you ever put your card on Bolt or Uber and then they just debit you after your ride, this is how, right? They just send the authorization code to the or the token card token, right, to the service provider, and you are good to go. Right? So this is how it's done, right? Cool. So I don't think I need to. I mean, I don't want to go through. I can do this later because I just want to demonstrate this. But I think later I can also link it to like crediting the app and all of that. So I mean, what your companies will do, what your maybe your fintechs and co will do is they will save your card details along with. I mean, not of course it will be encrypted, right? Encrypted, definitely encrypted. They will save it as well. They will save its authorization and just use it to debit your card whenever you make it a ride, for example, on Bolt or Uber. Yeah. So that is that, right? But there's something else. I want to show you something important, right? On Paystack, or right, it's not even just with Paystack; it's with any card processor, to be honest. Something can happen, which is the fact that the call to Paystack can time out, or the call to your processor. Let me stop saying Paystack, right? The call to your before someone thinks that Paystack will be for anyway, the call to your card processor can time out, right? So how will you know if something happened? I'll try to demonstrate this. Let me see if I can find their test cards. Lord help me. Let's see. Um, so let's see. But they have a page that is final like this. There's like the V2 is final, so I'll just go to the V2. Test cards here. See. I'm still on V1. This one V2. Yeah, it used to be very fine. We had some cards. But anyway, um, let's go forward. So you can see one of the cards that fails the error message. It says um, timeout error. So let's try to debit this card and see what happens. Let's see how it returns like the timeout. So it's another type of card. So let me copy this in here. I'm just going to copy all of this and just demonstrate it to you here. I want to see how it will behave. So I'm going to try to charge this card here. The card number will be right. So expiry date any day in the future. CV is 060. Okay, let me delete this. It's fine. Wait for CVV. Yeah, 060. So I'm going to try to charge this card and I'll see what the response looks like. Right? So let's go on. Comment this out and run. Cool. Okay. So it returns, let me see. Let me inspect charge.data.data. So status is pending, right? Cool. So it's one of two things. Is either charge.data.data.status is pending, right? That's like if you actually get a response. So maybe for some reason they try to debit the card, but the debit is just pending, right? Just pending. Or it is also possible that you don't get any response at all, like at all, and then you get an error. So can I mock that? Can I try to mock that? Let me see. If I something like I'm trying to see if I can mock a timeout here, just to show you like if the API call timed out. Ah, man. Okay, I didn't think about that before now, but, but, but I'll try and maybe work on that later to really show you. But basically, it's possible that you don't get an API response because of course, it's a timeout, and something it just falls in your error block, and then it says, okay, timed out. So what do you do in that kind of scenario? Because I mean, you don't know the status. It's possible that the charge was eventually successful, so that's why they implemented something called webhooks, right? Webhooks is like a webhook is basically a URL, like it's a URL on a server that makes it possible for your service providers or whoever to send you a message to let you know when something happened. It's right there in Paystack documentation. Paystack has their own. Right, so if you check here, here is why is it so hard for me to find anything today? Where is the webhook? Okay, yeah. Right, cool. I'm not sure if you can. Let me zoom in a bit. Yeah, so for events, there are different ways to confirm, but I won't go into like all of this. But if you read through the docs, they tell you that you have to validate that it's coming from them, so that somebody's not just sending you some random thing. You get? Yeah. So there are two ways to verify like that the call is coming from them, either from the IP or from the header, right? You can see that here. So responding to an event, you are advised that you should respond with 200 OK, right? And they consider it an acknowledgement. If your application responds with anything outside 200, they consider it unacknowledged and send it every hour for 72 hours, blah, 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 and all of that. Good. So there are different scenarios for which they can send you a webhook request. But for our use case, which is like charging cards, I think the only one that applies is a successful payment. Let me see the subscription. No, not payment. It's a payment request. No, it should be something like charge. Yeah, charge.success. So this is the event we'll be watching out for. They usually will send this in request of body. Like this is what the request of body will be like. Sorry, let me look for it. Transfer. I can't. Okay, yeah, this is the transaction code. So this is what it will look like. Charge, and then it will have everything, like all the details of the transaction in the body. Status is success and all of that, and then history. Cool. So how do we implement this? Let me just write. I'm going to have to create like a small server, right? So in that case, I'm going to do something like okay, I'm install Express because I'm going to create an Express server. So let me create a new file called webhook webbook. No, it's web page. Yeah, webhook.js. So let me just quickly do this. Express app would be express like this. Then let's do the same for let's say 4,000. There you go. The callback, right? What the heck are you going to do this again? Basically, just return, just log server. Let me say webhook server. Something like this. Oh, but before then, remember you have to do this. Yes, JSON, and I think you also need to do express dot URL something. Put it here. I just set this to false. So this is just a simple Express server. So of course we'll be hitting a certain route. So let me just create the route, right? It will be a push request, definitely. So because I have a more route to this server, I'm just going to do the whole route response. Whenever a request comes in, what I want to do is let me first log the request body. Right? Everything is fine. And this is where we have a simple server. But I mean, for this particular process of this app, right, I have to make sure that I mean their system has to be aware of my my URL. So what part of what I do when I'm testing like my local, I mean this is not I don't know if there are other ways to do this. There are, please let me know. But one of the ways there's a service called ngrok, like NGROK, right? Cool. You can use that service to like expose your local host via a public URL via HTTPS, and you'll be good to go. So let me just look at my port is on 4,000, but I have to start the server first. So I'm just gonna do node webhook server started. Cool. So I'll just use my terminal. To my downloads folder. I already downloaded ngrok and all of that, so my app is running on 4,000. So it gives me a URL. Now I'm gonna have to take this URL, HTTPS, this. It maps to localhost 4,000. I'm going to have to take that URL all the way to Paystack. You have a dashboard where you can control things like your callback URL. So I think it's somewhere here. Yeah, API keys and webhooks. Right. So I'm just going to replace it here and save changes. Awesome. So we are going to go back and charge a card now. This is going to get really interesting. Let me put a breakpoint. Okay, no, I'm not using my debugger for this server, but it's fine. Let me just try to run this card.js, right, and just charge this card. But I'm going to charge with authorization so that this doesn't waste our time. So if I say node card, so I'm charging the card. Yes, I don't know if you noticed what just happened, right? We got a request in our webhook. Can you see this webhook? The event is charged by success. You have all of this going on there, this reference, blah, 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 and authorization. And you see that matches the results from the charge of the card itself. So basically, if you get a response from the API, fine. But just in case you don't get a response, it's always good to have like a webhook that they can send, notifications to. And what I will usually advise is that you only honor like credits and stuff from requests that come from the webhook. So you can actually find if you call the API like how we've been doing and you get a successful response, I believe you can go ahead and credit your your wallet, right? But if for some reason you cannot verify or something, like what you can do is whenever there is a request like this, then once you see that you got a successful request, you go into your database, check for this reference if it exists there, check for the status, and then you can carry out your actions based on the fact that okay, there was a successful charge, just in case for some reason you missed it in the API response, right? Just so that I'm sure that you've been with me so far. Can you just leave a comment and say I'm here or this is cool, or if you have any question, you can just drop it in the comments box. Yeah, I mean, I'm just talking to my mic, so it's hard for me to gauge. I'm just hoping that you can hear me. So. But if you can, that'd be fantastic. Cool. Okay, thank you. Right. So now that's what a webhook looks like. I mean, later I will like update the code so what the code will do is based on this request, you probably check if the transaction already exists in the DB, if the user was already credited, and all that logic you get. And then if the user wasn't credited before for some reason, then go on and credit. If the user was credited, then just say okay, just respond with 200 and just move on, right? And yeah, and that's it really. That's like really how it works. So we've gone through webhooks, and I mean we've done just 30 minutes. Wow, awesome. Okay, cool. Let me just look for another feature that we can implement. Yes. So if you used your banking apps before, right, and let's say you are trying to send money to someone, for example, or any transaction at all, if you click the button twice, you get this response that is something like duplicate transaction, right? So they tell you, okay, you can't do this twice. You may be sending money twice, or you may have mistakenly clicked twice. So the app basically prevents you from doing another one. And that sounds like something interesting. Should we do that on this call? Should we do that? Anyway, before we decide, let me check the top. I think I just put down a few ideas. I put down a few ideas here. Okay. Sorry. Fund week is done. Bank transfer. Duplicate transactions. Okay. Maybe we should attempt duplicate transactions then. Bank transfer is just. Yes. I think I'd rather do transfer than another stream altogether. Okay. So duplicate transactions. How would it work? Before we just jump into code, I'd like to write like a basic algorithm for this. So the first, I it shouldn't be so complex, right? But this is how I think you should do it. I think you first want to be sure of like how can you confirm that it is the exact transaction from the same user, right? That's the question. How you confirm that? One way you can do it is every time the request comes in, you find some way somehow to say maybe you what's the logic? One thing you can do is hashing, right? Why I suggest hashing is this: when you hash, you get you get a consistent string. Like every time you hash 20, you always get the same thing, right? And I think we'll just do there's a particular hashing algorithm called the SHA 512. Let's try and do it online, right? So still loading, but not sure why my internet is slow today. Okay, cool, cool. 512 online. Or let's just do, should we do 256 or 512? Let's do 256, for example. Online. Sorry, I'm just trying to open up the website. Open. Let's do 512. I'm more comfortable with 512. Cool. So this is we want to hash something. Let's say I want to hash Ade is a good boy. Now every time I hash Ade is a good boy, right? I'm going to get this string no matter when I type it, right? See, it's 8A5, whatever. I'm going to always get this constant, no matter what. Except but if I put a space, it affects it. If I put a star, it affects it. Whatever really it affects. But point is, when you hash like a string, you get the consistent value. So I can do something like my algorithm can look at this. It can be that so depending, I'm just going to be typing it out. So depending on the type of transaction, you can just hash the details of the transaction, right? The other thing is we have to store this hash somewhere, right? So that if you're making another request, we can compare the hash of the request you're sending to, the maybe last transaction that you sent, that kind of thing. So let's go on. Right. So once that happens, once you've hashed that, you're now going to compare what you sent to what's already stored, and just be sure that it's not the same, basically. Like two requirements. The first one is we have to store And the second one is there has to be like a time frame because I mean I can send 10K to you today and 10K to you tomorrow, but there has to be a time frame within which if I do that, if I try to send 10K again to you, you should allow me because it won't be duplicates because that short amount of time I couldn't possibly have clicked the button twice. Right? Cool. So a technology that we use to store like things that expire in data, in memory data store is fast for retrieval. So yeah, I think we should use Redis for this. So that's what it would. The algorithm will be depending on the type of transaction, hash details. We store the hash in Redis, and then the hash has to expire after let's say X seconds or milliseconds. Let's say X seconds, right? And then if it does, fine, let it go through. If not, respond with duplicate transaction, right? Awesome. So this is it, right? Find a way to implement. All right, let's just open my code editor and let's start. So there'll probably be if there was like an API layer where I was playing an API, there'll probably be some like other more elegant ways to do this. But I mean, I'm just writing functions, right? So I'm going to assume that a transfer. So I want to implement that feature for just this transfer function and show you like how it works. Right? Simple. So when you're transferring, there are like three things you send. There's sender ID, there's recipient ID, and there's the amount. So it means that after I process your transfer, right, after it's successful, I'm supposed to save these details, like that hash, I'm supposed to save it somewhere and then move on, like, and then go on to do implement the entire algorithm. The first thing is how do you implement that this hashing in Node? I don't know what to use, so I'm just going to check here. Okay, there are a number of packages. Which one should I use? Which one should I use? Okay, crypto has one. I think crypto is native. I think crypto is native for me. Not sure. Oh, I think it should be native. I think that's already a long time. Yeah, so in the crypto model, you have this. You could also like install different packages, right? Depending on your preference, right? Let me check out the crypto model and see if it's actually in it. Okay, awesome. So here you have it. I'm just going to copy and paste because uh, let me copy this, paste it. In fact, let me just put the example and then delete it. Before I do that, hold on. Create H mark. The hash is this. Okay, I don't need a lot. I just need this. Right, awesome. So let me create a new file first. I'll integrate this later. So I'm going to call it hash.js nodes.no1.js. Yep, I don't need this. Hash is crypto.js. So let me just do a test, right? Hash dot now. No. Let me see. Okay, I need to check the docs again for how exactly it works, just to be sure that I've not missed anything. So you can do a hash dot updates. This guy. Let me see. Dot hash. This you can now have functions that's hash dot updates. And let me look at the next example. Crypto dot create hmark. This one is okay. I think this is what I actually need. Right, hmark is crypto.create hmark. This and then the string I want to hash. Right. Awesome. So let me do that instead. So create page. Right. Let me see how they use it. Sorry, I'm switching screens, but this one you sure I'm not missing it. Let's just 5.6 and then so it means instead of 5.6, I'll do 5.1.2. SHA 5.1 I'm going to run for a day is a funny, I don't know, really? What else? Right. And then what else is supposed to happen after that? Right. And then I'm supposed to blah blah blah. I think that does it. That does it. Let me run this code and see what it gives me. I hope that it is correct. So let me log hash. So I'm going to just run this code by running node and hash. Oh, no, I think there's supposed to be a hash dot. I think there's a digest. Yes. No, I don't remember the last time I used this, so that's why I'm experimenting like this. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it. Nice. Yeah. Let me try. Invalid argument type. I think you're supposed to pass a buffer to digest. No, it returns a buffer. I haven't used this in a long time. Pardon me. I just want to hash something. Can you just give me an example? Hash. Sorry. SHA512 with crypto node.js example. Right. Let me know this much. Okay, we have a blog post here. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Oh, you're supposed to hash with a key. I think. Yeah, let it load. So yeah, what it basically does is creates it, uses a key, and then you update it, and then the value is hash of digits, and then you put passing, let's try to pass it back as a X value. So copy all of this. Thank you. What's the name of this person? Christoph Hartman. Thank you, Christoph. You have helped us today. So let me go back here. Just paste. Right. So text is this. So the text I want to hash is hello Bob, and the key is my secret key. Obviously, it won't be this like it won't be in your code like this. It'll be probably an environment variable or something. So to create the hash, you run this SJ512 pass in key hash to the update, be the text, and then you log the value. So if I do load hash, cool. So I get this 19FF something something. Yeah, good. So you're hashing with this key. Let me see what happens if I don't put in the key. Yeah, you see undefined. So you have to put in the key. Right. Oh, yeah, we have successfully hatched. Of course, you need a key to hash. Yeah, we have successfully hashed this. So step one is done, right? At least we know how to hash now. Step two will now be to hash what exactly. Let's go back to this. Or let's still use that same hash file. But, I'm going to have a function that just hashes whatever it passes to it, right? So if I say something like function and the name is something like hash arguments, I'm going to simply do this thing is called a spread operator. Right? Is it rest or spread? I don't even know which one is which anymore. I'll find out. I'll Google it just to confirm. So if I want to do something like arguments here, or yeah, let's call it. I don't know what should we call it. What are we actually? Let's call them parameters. Whatever it is. And this isn't quite way to do this because I want to just concatenate everything that is sent here. Let me try something. It will be fun, but I've not done this in a long time, so I don't even remember. Like what? If I hash arguments, and I will put 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to return. It's going to return an array, right? Good. So I have this in an array, and I'm just going to do dot join. Ah, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4. It just But if I don't want it to put commas in between them, I can do that. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, awesome, awesome, awesome. So what I want to do is whenever you pass like a number of arguments, no matter what you pass. Now this function is be for only like bank transfers. So I can just say, I can do it like this for now, and then I'll tell you why. Why it should not be, why I don't think it should be this generic, right? But I'll tell you why later. But let's go on. So we have a function that can take in any number of arguments and just join. And of course, we can hash whatever you get, right? Awesome. So I'm just going to export this function as module.export. I'll create an object and I'm passing. It's cool. So let's go back to app.js and then the function where we do a transfer. Let me bring this down a bit. So when you do a transfer, you send in this argument, blah, blah, blah. We do the transfer for you, and it fails, do this, right? So for now, I'll just implement it as, use hash if your transaction actually succeeded, right? Yeah. So should we even do it like that? Let's even do it like whenever you do it at home, for example. So once you send it here, I'm just going to say once validation is done, right? Or in fact, do I even want to validate first? I don't know. These are like discussions that you probably will have in your team as regards like when exactly you want to do this whole hashing thing. But let me just do it after like the transaction is successful, right? So that we don't, bother ourselves. So after I commit this transaction, I have to import the function first. Right? If I do this, I believe you import it for me. Yeah, VS Code is so nice. Hash, cool. So you import it for me. So I'm going to hash the following things, right? I'm going to hash the sender ID, the recipient ID, and the amount. So if you run this transaction again, and then this sender ID, this sender ID, this recipient ID, this recipient ID, and the amount is the amount, what is going to happen is that it should tell you something like duplicate transaction. That's cool. So hash argument. Now in this function, remember again, we are supposed to be hashing what we get, but we are supposed to be hashing this dot join this. So let me bring it all together. Right? I would say the hash request will be something like parameters of join this. Sorry. No, let me just hash it straight. Let me not bother myself too much. The hash request would be what do I do now? What do I do now? Hash. Okay. Let me just find some of this out. In fact, I'll just read the key but delete this text because this text will help. So I would say hash equals crypto dot create hmark. I'm going to do is an SHA 512, and I'm going to use the B2B key. That's string. Next thing you want to do is hash dot update the whatever is sent, right? So I'm going to call this concatenated request. Okay, this is a long name, but I don't have any name for now, so it's going to be this, right? And then I'm going to say hash dot updates concatenated requests, and then then the hash request would now be hash dot ingest, right? On the hex value. And I'm going to pass in hex. Right, that's all. So just to be sure that everything goes well, I'm going to log hash requests. Voila. Right. So I'm going to call this function at the end. Okay, I'm already doing that. Right. And yeah. So I'll call this function, and then of course it will log it, and then we'll see what we have. So basically, let me just try to do a transfer, right? Yeah. Of course, the feature is not fully implemented, but I just want to test that this hashing is working fine. Let me fix this. Cool. So I want to do something like transfer. Sender ID is 1, recipient ID is say 2, and the amount should be like 10,000, right? Let me just log whatever I get from this function. Also, now if I run app, it should log internet server error. It means it got here. All right, I now have to check what's happening. I don't know. Successful now. Maybe there's no user with that ID. Maybe there's no, or rather, maybe there's no account with that ID. Let me confirm. Let me bring this into view so you can see clearly. Sorry, dot account. Oh yeah, I have an account with the ID of 2. So why internet server error? What did I do wrong? I'll confirm now. Is this the ID of the account or the ID? Sorry, 1 second. Let me just confirm that everything is good here. So I'm going to do this. Debit the account. To debit the account, you're going to check the accounts model. All right, so let me check the accounts table. Yeah, I have 1 and 2, so it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, let me see the reason for the error. So I'm going to have to use my debugger to run this to make it easy for me to catch. So, but I'm going to have to edit the file a little bit. So let's just do that quickly. I'll call this start app. I'll create another function. I'll change this to cart. Change this to app. After.js. So I can close this, and then I can run start app. Right. So once I run start app, it should run that function and then show me why I have an error. The error is cannot read property lock of undefined. Yikes. That's a transaction problem. No problem, we'll fix it. Debit accounts, credit accounts. Passing T here. Oh, I'm not passing transaction here. Let's see. Okay. Let's run it again. I believe it should run fine. Okay, cool. So transfer successful, and then this is the hash of everything. If I run this like 1,000, right, it should return the same value to me. 67111. In fact, just to be sure, I'm going to do something. I'm going to try and run this multiple times, and then yeah, let me do that. Let me just call the function multiple times just to show you that it's the same value every time. Right? I'm going to run this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Like 6 times, cool. And if I call this guy, it should log the same thing every time. Right? If it does not, then we have a problem. We have a very serious problem. Is my app started? Why is it wasting time? Why is it wasting time? Okay. I know what's happening. Run. Is it not running? Okay, I'm not sure what's happening. Like today. This looks like all those demo day bugs. You know, everything is fine until you demo. But I'm not even done this before. Like I'm writing all of this from top of my head, as you can see. So I'm doing so it's not exactly a demo day type of bug. Hey, will you tell me what's going on? Okay, I don't know. Start running. Let me see that if I run from my terminal, what will happen? Okay, this is weird. I need to figure this out later. But anyway, let me just erase this so that we can move forward quickly. We've already spent 1 hour, so okay, but it works fine on the first time. But I don't know why it's delaying some time. Oh, I may have an idea, but that's not for now. But anyway, yeah. So is it the button? Yeah. So we have the hash. You can see the 67 blah 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 11. If I run it again, 6711, it will always be this 6711 blah blah blah. Always. So good. We have hashing correct. Next thing we need to do is Redis. Right. I know that there's a package, there's an npm package for Redis. There are many, right? But this is the one I use, npm install Redis. I need to open like page to be sure that what I'm doing is correct. This slash package slash Redis. The Redis. This is how you start a Redis client. You emit an event on error. You can set and get a key. Okay, if you want to use it with promises, well, do I? I'll just copy everything. And then yeah. So I'm going to create another file called Redis. In this file, I'm going to require Redis and all of that. It's already installed now. Oh, so on error, log error, and then you can set and get whatever you want to do. So let me see. So let me just try and let me run the example and see if I believe my Redis is running. If not, I'll have to run it myself. But again, I'm going to run client.set and see what it gives me. Kind of can see what it gives me. So if I just run node Redis, okay, connection refused. My Redis is not up. Let me just start my Redis. Sorry. I believe I installed it in my downloads. Redis slash. Okay, so it's supposed to be SRC. I'm supposed to just run. Let's Redis server. Yep, okay, so Redis is running now. Awesome. So I can close this. So if I run it again, yes, it says reply is okay, reply value. So the first one gave a reply of okay, the second one gave a reply of value, I think. Yes. Yeah, gave a reply of value. Let me confirm from the documentation. That's what it is. So the client that gets this. Not that the API is entirely asynchronous, you have to use a callback, yada yada yada. I know. Okay, but what if I don't want to use a callback? Okay, error and response. What's the same as this? Sorry, let me just make sure that everything is fine. I'm not missing anything. If I want to get this, the callback is optional. Okay, if the key is missing, reply will be null. Okay, awesome. So I know what to check for. So if in this case, for example, instead of running redis.print, I'll just run a function that calls either the error or the result. Right? So I'm just going to log either way. Oh, I hope I've not lost you actually. So if you're lost, you can just let me know in the comment section and maybe just tell me where you're lost. So I would try to find you. Something. Cool. So same thing here. Right, awesome. I'm going to log this and see what it gives me in both instances, right? So, okay, in both cases, error is null. Here it returns results, here it returns value. Weird. Okay, yeah, because value is what I put in the So for Redis, right, I'm setting a key to this value, right? You get. So what I'm doing is client.get key and then it returns result as value, and then client.set key to the value, basically. So it's like this. Awesome. We're making progress. So the next thing we want to do is save whatever we hashed in Redis. What if you're going to use like a key value, for example? What are you going to save it against? Like what will be the key and what will be the value? It's clear that the value will be the hash, right? But what will be the key? And the key, if you say the key, if you are just the key value, right? So something like this. If the user performed that transaction is a 1 and the hash is say whatever, for example. So is this what it would look like? The problem with this is, I mean, if so let me just explain like the thoughts in my head. If you do it like this, where this is the user ID against this, right? It means that if your time frame for duplicates is like 5 seconds, for example, it means that if I do another transaction within 5 seconds and do a third one, so let's assume that this first one is a bank transfer, for example. The second one is a card transfer or a card transaction. The third one is another bank, transaction, but to the same account, right? But if I do all these three within 5 seconds, I expect that it flags this second bank transfer, for example, because it's the same thing as the first. So it means that we can't use key value for this because you can't exactly repeat. Right. Redis has data structures. There are data structures that allow you to do multiple, and is this HM set, right? But how are we able to use it, or how are we even sure that it is the proper one? So Redis data structures. There we go. Data types. I don't even know which one to pick, but there are many, right? There are strings, there are lists, there are sets, there are hashes, there are sorted sets, what have you. So so let's read the description to know which one to use. Say Redis hashes are mapped within string fields and string values so that they are the perfect data type represent objects. So a user with multiple fields like name, surname, and so forth. So you have user, 1000 is the key, or yeah, it's like the key. Let's say it's the key, and then these are all the values. His username is this, his password is this, his age is this. Yeah. Okay, so maybe that can work. Another one is set. It's already set an unordered collection of strings. It's possible to add, remove, and test. Add, remove, and test for existence of members in the set. Ready sets have a zero property, not allowing repeated members. If you want to use a set, let me see, what would it look like? It will mean that you are going to be waiting for Redis to throw an error when you try to insert the hash that is a duplicate. Okay, so if you're trying to insert that and then you get a duplicate, you know that's okay. That's an error. So yeah, that looks like something that can work. Let's see their strings and all that. But from the commands, it's really easy for me to find my way around, right? So for hashes, for lists, for sets, let's look at sets more closely. So the key is a string, and then the key has members. So accepts multiple member arguments, basically. So you can add to my set hello, add world, add. If you try to add world again, it will return 0, right? To show that it's an error. So I think we can even use a set actually, right? So the key of the set can be something like the user ID, and then we can have members of the set as the members of the set, right? So you can have the hashes of the transaction as the members of the set. You get it? So let's quickly demonstrate that because it looks like I'm talking too much theory. If you're with me, please respond with like a thumbs up or whatever. Just let me know if you're with me. Right. So let's go back to code. This is getting very exciting. Sadd. So the method name is sadd, right? So if I do something like, how do you first? Do you have to create it before you add, or okay, you just do add. I think it creates if it doesn't exist. Oh, so are the specified members? So Specified members that are already a member of this are ignored. If a key does not exist, a new set is created before adding specific members. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So let's just test it, right, by doing something like client dot is it let's add. So I'm trying to add to a set. Let the key it can be what now? An array of strings. Okay, the array is string array of strings. So let's assume that the key is say um, hello, for example. I can insert many values like hi, like y, fb, nothing at all. All this should go through, right? So if I do this and I pass in the callback results, so, let me log with error result. Let me see what this gives me. Is there a problem here? I expected a function call Christ. Sorry, I've done something wrong here. So I'm trying to retrace my steps. Hold on. Let me comment this out first. Add this. This is the callback function. You know what? Let me just rewrite this because I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Let's see here. Yeah, it's closed. Oh, okay. Problem is okay. Okay, awesome. So let me run this and see. If I say node credits, okay, error is null, result is 3 because it's inserted 3. I'm going to run another one, but this time I'm going to change the key. I'm going to say something like hi, but I'm going to try to repeat hi, right? So repeat 2 keys or 2 values rather for the set. Yes, result is 2, meaning I added 2 of them. Okay, I get. So this will work because because I'm creating. Now, if I do another clients.sadd, right, and I try to add another hi to hi, right, uh, right. Let me try to add another hi to this set. Let me see what the result will be. Cool. Error is now result is 0. So once you see a 0 result, you know that okay, it failed, and that's what's like in the Redis documentation here, right? So I said, let me see, where's it? Let's add. If key does not exist, if an error is returned when the value stored at key is not a set. All right, but what about when you are fetching? Okay, I think it's the native itself. Let me go back to the documentation for the model of using. I'm going to do for S. Okay, it's here. Okay, it's not here. But I mean, we saw how like they returned 0 when we try to add, like when we try to repeat. Right? Let me see if we can get all the, we can list all the members of the set. Right? So finish this. How do you know if a member exists? S is member. Let me see how S is member works. So 1 if it's a member of the set, 0 if it's not a member of the set. So I'm going to check if, so I'm going to test the code again, right? So I'm going to do clients dot s is member. I'm going to check if, so it says the key is string and the member is also string. Okay. So in the hi set, I'm going to check if hi is a member, right? Um, I expect that. Good. If I run this, yes, it says result is one. That's because high is a member. If I try to check if wonderful is a member, wonderful, whatever, right? Result is zero. That's false. So zero is false. True is one. Is not a member, right? And I think we can go on with this. So it means that the check, you get the check. Now, from this, you can see something. Right? What you have to do is before you process the transaction, you have to check if it exists, right? Then you now, you know, if it does not exist, you can continue your processing, right? Then if it does, you just return an error from the start. You get so let's write a function that will do that for us. This is exciting. This is very exciting. I like this. So, how do I even check if it exists? So I can do something where I first check if the set exists. Is there something like that? Is there something like set exists? X exists? No. So how do I check if the key exists now? That's the last piece of the puzzle. Maybe I don't even need to because at the point of creation, hmm, this is becoming tricky. At the point of creation, right, I can try to just, if I try to add it, if it does not exist, it will create it. If it exists, it will throw an error. Okay, so let's try. So I'm going to create a function that says, um, the function is going to be something like, um, maybe check Redis hash, for example. It's going to take a hash, it's going to take an account ID, and it's going to take a hash, right? And what I'm going to basically do is this. I'm going to try to do um, this where but in this case, the key is going to be, okay, this is messed up. So in this case, the key is going to be the account ID. The hash is going to be like whatever hash I sent, right? And then I'm going to say um, client dot. Mm, okay, no. In fact, since I've already done this, let me log the result of this function. Sorry. Yeah. I'm going to test it for the last time. So now I'm going to assume that when we are trying to perform a transaction, we sent in the account ID, which is one, and the hash was something like this, right? If I run it the first time, I expect it to create it, right? And then the second time, I expect it to like return an error. So let's do this. So if I say load Redis, so the first time result is one. The second time result is zero because you can't add it anymore because it already exists. But again, I need it to expire. That's like the last part. I need to be able to make it expire. So we have to go back to the docs. Uh, Let me see. Maybe this will help me. La 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 la. I don't even know how to set the expiry now. Okay, I'm just going to guess. Or in fact, let me just look at the typings for it. So in this, I have this SR, for example. Um, so I'm looking into the TypeScript parts now. The type rather. Does it let you send anything like an expiry? Is an overloaded, of course overloaded. This. I don't know if it lets you set an expiry to be honest, but I'm going to try something. It's not obvious from documentation whether let's set an expiry. So this is tricky here. I know you can do this. You can an expire a key, right? And set the expiry to be like this is number of what now seconds, right? So 3,000 seconds should be how many minutes? Should be 50 minutes, right? So if you want it to be 1 minute, you know how many seconds? 60 seconds, right? But for the aim of this, because I want it to be very short, I'm going to set it to expire at 3 seconds, right? So what's going to happen is I'm going to set this. I'm going to try to get it, but I want it to expire after 3 seconds. Okay, so let me run this code first. Result is 0. Let me change the account ID to something like 2. No, let me change it to be like 100, for example. So what's supposed to happen is it's supposed to add it, and then it's supposed to set it to expire in 3 seconds, right? Cool. So let's say, okay, result is 1. It has added it. Now, if I try to find it, so if I do something like find.s is member of, and the key is what's the key we used? 200, right? And we use this to find it. You should not find it anymore because it will have expired. I mean, I've been talking for more than 3 seconds, right? So, yep. Results. Awesome. So, yeah, let's try that. See, result is 0. You didn't find it because it has expired. Right. Cool. So, I'll have to. I don't like to do the expire in how do I say this? Sometimes you can pass the expire like this, where you can do this and then you can do expire and then pass. But I don't know. I don't know how this works. So let's leave it like this. I'll do the expire separate command. Right? But basically, I'm going to be doing this. So I don't know if I should call this function check redis hash because it doesn't look like the proper way to call it. But for now, I mean, we're not going to. So let's complete the logic here, right? So it's supposed to add this. Supposed to add it to. Supposed to add the hash to this key. Now, if the result is 0, if it's an error, just throw an error altogether. Throw the error because I don't know what will cause that. Maybe a network error. But if the result is false, or if it's 0, or if falsy, get if the result is a falsy value, or you know what, let me just return result and put the logic in there. Sorry. This is tricky. Do I want to, because if I, let me just put on logic here. So if this is, if result is false, then what I want to do is return, just return success, false. If not, then set the expiry and return success to be true. So we're going to do module.export would be something like this. Check redis hash. There we go. All right, cool. I think we're good. Just to be sure that I don't, because the ID I'm using is the ID of 1. So let me just make sure that going to be a final check to be sure that it no longer exists. this string. Let's pass in the string. Passing the callback. So I want to check if that key I created earlier still exists. I don't think it should, but let me confirm. The result should be 0 at this point because it should no longer exist. Yeah, the result is 0. So, yeah, all right, so let's go back to the application logic. Spent a lot of time here. App.js. So I want to transfer from account of this ID to account of this ID. And what I'm going to do is, instead of putting at the end, right, so I'm going to remove this. It's no longer useful. I'm going to try to check at this point before I start to process the transfer after validation is correct. So I'm going to check where this hash, right, where the account ID is the account ID, and so the account ID will be sender ID. No, okay, let's continue. So there are two things we need to do: the hash and the redis. So the first thing I want to do is hash everything I get. So I would say something like request hash should be hash arguments, and I'm passing in what now? I'm going to pass in sender ID, recipient ID, and the amount. That's the hash. Right, so I'll get the hash from there. Then I'm going to now pass that hash to this function, right? And then make sure this. So I'm going to say const, I'm just going to call this redis check results. I'm going to say, you know what, we're going to be the result of that check. Now, if success is false from this function, right? So if success is false, then I'm going to say something. I'm now going to respond with error will be duplicate transaction. Typing in a string. If not, just continue with the processing. So let's check the logic. In this check credit hash function, what it tries to do is it tries to add it. If it exists, so if it doesn't exist, if that's if the key doesn't exist, it will create it and then it will return success to be true. Right? If the key already exists, that particular element does not exist. It will add it, right, and return success to be true. But if it exists and that hash already exists, you return success to be false. So what I want to now do is I'm going to extend this to like 1 minute. So that'll be 60 seconds. Let me just change 30 seconds. Awesome. So now this is 30 seconds. But the problem is every time we add, yeah, and it's fine to be honest, because every time we add, we are going to expire it. We are going to like renew the expiry. That makes sense, right? That makes sense. I think it does. Yeah. That's it. Maybe. So anyway, it's fine. So I'm going to use my debugger to run this so that we can see things happen like step by step. I'm trying to transfer from account 1 to account 2. The amount is 1,000. Right? So our main concern is with this part of the code. Right? And then we are going to, of course, we are logging the response. So let's run this code and hope that it behaves properly. If it works fine the first time, that would be huge. Yes, so I'm running it now. And will it even return my results? No, it's not returning. It has cancelled. Okay. I have to check what I'm doing. Oh. Sorry. But I'm using a callback. So return. So I'm going to do right. Let me run it again. That is fine this time. Start up. It's just stopping. So I don't even know what I'm doing wrong. Anyway, let me run it again. Let me be sure that it gets here. Okay, it gets here, right? Um, it gets here. The hash is undefined. Oh. Oh, I'm not returning anything. My bad, my bad. Hash arguments. I'm not returning. Can you imagine? So I'm supposed to return. So let me just return this. No wonder. So anyway, let me run this again. So this is why like a debugger is so good. You can know like you can see a step-by-step execution of your code. Yes, I have a proper hash now. Good. So it returns this. Then it's supposed to. Uh-oh. What's happening? Cannot read property success of undefined. Wow. Okay. Let me run it again and see what it. I don't know why it's saying success undefined. Okay. Request hash is this. This is what undefined. Why is it undefined? I'm coming. I have to confirm why it's undefined. I'm calling this function, and this function has a callback, and then you know. Oh, sorry, I got you. I got you. I got you. So I think it should work now. So okay, validation. What? The hash is currently why is it still undefined though? This undefined is going to tear my head today. So let me look to the code properly, right? And, this should be outside it. So I'm going to do a step by step here. I'm going to see how this is running step by step. Let me see what happens if it gets here or whenever it gets here. What happens? Okay. Let me run it again. Sorry, I need to see happen step by step. Cool. Oh, this is async. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Pardon me, this is actually async. So I either have to do hmm. Okay, there are two options here. Right. I can do like something that's recommended in documentation if I want to like say here. I can do this. I can do blah 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 and promisify and then you see it doesn't necessarily support promises, but you can write methods with promises. So let me I think I'll go this way, but I'll have to do a bit of what I call it factoring. It is a native module, so it's fine. So I would say I will name this add elements, and I'm going to let it be permittify clients dot what now s add, right? Yes. So what I can now do once I've done this, if this guy will be async, I'm going to remove this entire callback something, right? And that's going to say const. In fact, let me do it from up here. The response will be await add elements. I believe you have it dot add. Oh no, sorry. I'll just do this. Right, cool. And I'm going to say, so before that, let me see what it like returns. I'm going to first remove all these breakpoints and comment out all this code. I just want to test like what happens if I do this, if I know this is correct. So here I'm going to do check reduce hash but then dot catch. I'm not doing anything inside it here. I want to run it here. I'll say node and what now? SR contains invalid type undefined, only strings, blah blah blah. Allowed. What do I do now? So it's saying the sr command contains an invalid argument of type undefined. Oh, sorry. That's my mistake. I'm supposed to send in account ID and hash. Let's assume the account ID is 2, blah, blah, blah. The hash is this. Okay, it returns 1, right? Let me try to run it again. Let me add it again to the list. It returns 0. Cool. So we are cool. So I can still do what I want to do by saying if there is no, so if it's false, if it's a false value, if response is a false value, right? Return, I can take something like return success false, and error will be something like duplicate transaction, right? If not, return, no, before then, you're supposed to expire. So let me also add something like this. Right? If not, after that, what you want to do is await this function where I expire the account ID by 30 seconds. And you return, this should just be true. Right? Cool, I can do this and we are good to go. Right, so let me remove this one and let's run our code properly now. I believe it should work fine. We have to await. Right, awesome. So let's run this code now. Did it work? Fingers crossed. Yes, we get here, right? Next stage is here. Yeah, success is true. It works. So yeah, and then we'll continue execution from there. And then if you check the debug console, you should see something like success true, transfer successful. Let's quickly run it again before it expires. Right? You should get a validation and it should return duplicate transaction. Yeah. So we have it. So that's like what it would look like. I just did like the skeletal structure. So you can see how you cannot transfer to the same account, the same amount within 30 seconds. Let me quickly just change the amount. You see that the transfer will go properly. If I remove 10 from the amount and I run this, it should just work properly. Right? I believe that the transfer will go through. I guess. Success will be true. So you transfer. You see, I change the amount in transfer. You transfer the credit. You transfer successful. If I try to run it again with the same amount, I should get an error for duplicate transaction. Right. Cool. Cool. Yes, duplicate transaction and boom. Yeah. So you have the feature implemented. That's what it would look in like in this output. So I think I'll in terms of like implementation, I'll stop here now and then check. And then or rather and then maybe ask I'll just wait a bit for people to like ask questions in the in the comment section. So um but yeah, this is like all the implementation for today. It's been an interesting journey. This is so exciting. Yeah. Oh, it's but so let's see. How's it going? You can just put a comment in the comment so I know whether to pause and answer a question or should I just close the stream for today. I'm going to wait for like a minute because I'm going to assume that there's some time difference between when I'm speaking and when you're hearing me. So I just wait for a minute or two, after which if there is no question or anything, we can stream for today. You can also give me your feedback in the comment section as well. It's fine. So how did this go for you? Do you think this was good? What do you think I could have done better? I could have done better. You can put that in the comment box as well. Yeah, but I mean we've come to the end of the stream for today. So 1 minute starts counting now, I guess. Yeah. Or let me say 2 minutes. Okay, I can't see any comments. Should I assume that there's no comments? Or anyway, you can comment later, really. It's fine. You can comment later. Like after the video. I'll come back to the video to see if there are any comments and I'll answer them as I see fit. But yeah. So I think I can close this stream now. Thank you so much for joining me. This one. So what did we do today? Three things, right? We made it possible for us to debit a card like after the first time where the card details were put into the system, right? We talked about the authorization code or the token that is returned from your card provider when you debit a card. The second thing we did was we set where we could receive notifications on like when the charge is successful, so that just in case we did not credit like user originally, we'll be able to do that. Get. And the third thing we implemented was how to like do like duplicate transaction. And this is so basically you don't allow a user perform the same transaction like to the same user if it's a transfer, for example, to the same user and all that. You don't let your user do that twice within 30 seconds, for example. 30 seconds can be a long time, to be honest. So that should be less fun. Yeah, I just want to show a rough example. So what I'm going to do next is I should actually put in a comment. I'll put in a comment for the link on GitHub. I'll upload all this code exactly how it is, right? Exactly how it is. I'll put it on a branch and then I would like clean it up and then I'll put up another branch again for this. So thank you very, very much for joining me. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What do I have to say again? Have a great, great evening. Thanks for joining me.